Hello, Los Angeles, and welcome back to Defenders of the Bank. This is episode 360. In reality, we haven't been counting the One More Sleeps, and from what Buzzsprout has in its records, I think we're about 60 episodes away from 500 when it really comes down to it. But we're going to stick to 360. We should probably party when we hit 500, but I digress. My name is Philly. At least that's what most people call me. That's what y'all call me. That's what the millions
10 millions.
call me. So Philly is my name, not because I'm from there. I'm from a small town in New York called Queens. Now, my co-host for today is also from the Northeast. And how LA is that? Two dudes from the Northeast rapping about LA sports. We need the scarf back ASAP, and he will be back this weekend. But till then, joining me from the Constitution State, that's Connecticut, by way of Chicago. He loves to run. He's always fired up, and he finally conceded and befriended the mascot of a cereal he said he didn't like, which we all found blasphemous. I give you LAFC Laugh, otherwise known as Chris Lafferty.
Man, Philly, you just fill my cup and I fill my bowl with milk before pouring in some delicious cinnamon toast crunch. Thank you for that introduction, my friend. I am fired up. I do bring the excitement because I am just loving everything about last night's 4-0 smackering over the Seattle Sounders, my friend.
That's a very nice way to put it. I have some more choice words for what we did to Seattle later on. And I don't know if you ever watched the movie Jane Silent Bob Strike Back, but his reference about filling the cup is probably not what you meant when you were saying that I fill your cup, because I'll just leave that alone. We're going to banter, folks. We're going to have fun, but we also aren't going to waste your time or our time. And I heard a saying in college, in that song called I Love College, that time isn't wasted when you're getting wasted. So with that being said, it's Thursday. Happy hour is in session. Know this day in LAFC history because that's the scarf segment. And since this is already the third time we were hanging out this week, only so much when it comes down to news and notes. But there are some news and notes. So I'm going to start off with something. Chris Lafferty's going to start out with something, and we'll get right into things. So LAFC earlier today posted, and this is for y'all that have kids, not for 40-year-olds like us. So Lafferty, you're 30. LAFC's having academy tryouts at Cal State LA on June the 6th and June the 7th for the 2012s and the 2013s. That'll be on June the 6th. The 2014s and the 2015s, that'll be on June the 7th. We always talk about how we love seeing the youth develop at LAFC. Well, for those of you who have kids and they play, here's your opportunity and perhaps their opportunity to be part of the best club in Major League Soccer. So, that being the case, once again, June the 6th at Cal State LA, the 2012s and the 2013s. June the 7th, the day after, the 2014s and the 2015s. But LAFC isn't stopping just there. That's for the academy tryouts. Chris, there's stuff going on with clinics, aren't there?
Oh, there's some clinics coming up and coming up fast. So if you got children that you want to get involved with a clinic, which just a great chance for them to go out and learn some stuff, learn from the great, the great pros and everybody running all these clinics for LAFC. Well, starting next week in plenty of locations, which is great for everybody. I love that LAFC reaches out and really offers a lot to people all around Southern California. Next week, we got Tuesday, May 20th at SoFi in Southgate. The next day, May 21st, SoFi in Rancho Cucamonga. Then after that, on Thursday, May 22nd, SoFi in Covina. Then May 27th, SoFi in Southgate again. And following back the next day, May 28th, SoFi in Rancho again, and May 29th, SoFi in Covina. So look, it's an opportunity to go out and learn and to play the LAFC way. And the great thing about these clinics is that they're offered at no cost. What is the biggest obstacle and one of the biggest reasons that people say soccer is not at the level it should be in America? Because it's too expensive. There's just way too much of a gate for people to cross through. Well, that's the great thing about this, is that you can send your kids to go out there and learn and get these clinics for free, no cost to you, which is just really remarkable. I think says a lot about what LAFC is doing for people. But just make sure that if you're kind of on the fence about it or you're thinking about it at all, take advantage of these great clinics. Give your kids a great opportunity, if you're available for these dates, to go learn from LAFC and give your kid a really good experience that they're always going to remember, and maybe kind of light that fire and inspire some of their dreams. And who knows, maybe the next Eric Duenas is going to be at one of these clinics.
Or maybe the next Nathan Ordaz, who does have a shoeless assist taken away from him. How could he be off when he didn't have a shoe on? Anyway, that's a joke. Haha. Folks, the pay-to-play thing does kind of suck. It sucks when you're in a rock band. It sucks when you play the beautiful game. So, yes, heed the words of one Chris Lafferty. And check it out. And if you're for more information, LAFC made these posts on their social media. So again, academy tryouts and clinics. All right, some news and notes. Not really, because
quick, hold up. Sorry, I forgot to throw this in. My bad. Just making sure everybody, yes, they are no cost to you, but you do have to register ahead of time. So make sure that you do go register. And like you said, all the info is on their social media, and the links are in LAFC's bios for all that as well. So make sure you sign up ahead of time, but you are still available to do it at no cost.
Yeah, and ahead of time isn't really that much time because it's in a couple of weeks. It's May the 15th. And so that's going to take place soon. So get on that, folks. All right, news. There's not really much news. This is what I think the third or fourth time we're seeing each other, defenders. So only so much can happen. I mean, we can talk about how Kai Kamara made his FC Cincinnati debut the other day and now making an appearance for his 12th club. We could talk about that, but that's not really LAFC news anymore. I'm more interested in hearing about Chris Lafferty's experience with the Cinnamon Toast Crunch mascot and some chicken sandwiches, because nothing says explosive diarrhea quite like Cinnamon Toast Chicken Sandwich Crunch. Let's hear about that, Laff.
Well, I didn't eat the Cinnamon Toast Crunch last night, but I did meet the Cinnamon Toast Crunch last night. See, and it all ties in to the chicken sandwiches, which also, if you're on LAFC social media, you can go and check out their story from last night and see myself modeling the beautiful lava chicken sandwich that they had at the rotisserie market right across from section 109. Look, and by the way, it was delicious. I've had a few of the chicken sandwiches throughout the years, either at the old Wolfie's that is no longer there behind 133, or the chicken sandwich that's at King's Hawaiian, which is pretty good, but not everybody's taste. This lava, whatever they put on it, man, it was freaking good. So I loved it. It was a heaping helping of fries with it, a delicious chicken sandwich. And Brad from the LAFC media team saw me and he's like, "Hey, would you mind just kind of like modeling that for like, or just like showing that so we can get some footage of the chicken sandwich?" I was said, "Absolutely, no problem." And so they did that, and that's what you saw on LAFC's Instagram was me right before I plowed down on that beautiful chicken sandwich. But the reason why they had that special chicken sandwich was because of last night's match was celebration of Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Night for LAFC. So very important that they offered some more cultural specific menu items at the game last night. I really appreciated that, and I made it a point for that reason to go get that chicken sandwich at the rotisserie. I also saw they had a different chicken and noodles dish, and I actually ordered that first, but when it came out, I was really disappointed in the portion of the chicken. So I said to the cashier, "Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's go to the lava instead." And man, was I satisfied with that. So anywho, after I ate that, I looked over and I saw, I was like, well, time for dessert. And I looked over and I saw a giant piece of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I walked over and said, "My friend, look, I know I may have wronged you in the past. I know there's video evidence of me saying I don't eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch or sugary cereals anymore, but I just want to clear the air and say you've given me so many good memories. It was me, not you. And I just wanted the Cinnamon Toast Crunch to know I still love it. I still love them. And you know what? I think tomorrow I might just go out and buy a box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch just to show the world my commitment and my love for this tasty cereal and my gratitude for their partnership with LAFC.
Have you not noticed what I just put on the screen?
Oh, I noticed, my friends. You can see that
Okay,
on our Instagram
just
there. We
making sure.
collaborated on that.
It's
Yep.
funny because this is what it falls under. Dang it, work.
Yep.
It's not working.
Technical difficulties
All
there.
right, whatever. I'm glad you brought up the Asian American Pacific Islander
Yeah,
night. Yes,
absolutely.
it was what we were celebrating yesterday. The lava lava chicken sando is what you had. They had the walk this way noodles. I wish I would have paid attention to LAFC's Instagram post because I would have been all about that. Then they had this passion fruit breeze drink. What a time to go sober. Unfortunately, I didn't even have any of this stuff. So at least I'm glad that you got an opportunity to relish in some of the great delicatessens and tasty things that were offered last night. All right. Another thing about Asian American Pacific Islander night, the Falconer for yesterday was pretty cool. It was Rob Fukuzaki, the sports anchor at ABC7. It's been on the LA airwaves for a long time, Defenders, 30 decades. The first male Japanese American TV anchor in Los Angeles. So that's pretty cool stuff. All right, let's get into this game. And by the way, it's great that Ali didn't fly away. And speaking of Ali, I got to hang out with Ken. Ken was in town, and he was up in
I
Founders.
saw
You
him
got to hang
from
out with him.
I saw him from a distance, but Ken Micknick, awesome guy. I met him on my very first LAFC match that I went to, and I met Ali at that match, and I thought it was just the coolest thing. You know why? Because it is the coolest thing. So always a pleasure to see Ken and to see Jason as well around the stadium. Again, two guys that are just always have been amazing to us and just to the LAC community as a whole. Have always been so gracious to everybody. So love to see those guys.
The Cougar in the chat goes 30 decades is a long time. You're damn right. He looks pretty good for his age of 30 decades. That's what happens when you cross in 30 years with 3 decades. All right. So let's unwind this beatdown that occurred. So, as far as the history is concerned, let's review 24 meetings throughout all competitions between LAFC and the Seattle Sounders. The game that took place yesterday was the 25th. The overall record, a series dominated by LAFC, 13, 7, and 4. Not to mention 7-0 and 1 at home. 14 goals for, 4 goals allowed. But dudes, Defenders, they've beaten us in some scenarios that, still hurt. Still hurt big time. Couple postseasons. Just thinking about it makes my skin crawl. But of course, Seattle's been a big part of our history from the get-go. The very first win we ever had up at the Clink, Century Link, back in 2018. Diego Rossi, 11th minute, scoring a goal against the Sounders. And how can we not forget that incredible start to LAFC's tenure at then Bank of California Stadium, where we beat, courtesy of a goal by Laurent Simon, our very first captain in team history. It's crazy to think that there's probably people listening to this pod that have no idea who Laurent Simon is. That's okay. That's why we're here to do this, and that's why Scarf's kept that this day in LAFC history journal that he has. But in another 5-10 years, that thing is going to be really wild. So Seattle, big part of the history. And Seattle coming in undefeated in the last 5, much like us, but their streak was 4 wins and a draw, a much better run, much better form versus us. So we thought that would be a problem. But the surprising thing, Chris, the starters, the 2 players that you and I discussed as the players to watch on One More Sleep, Danny Musovsky, who's one of the leading scorers, Albert Rusnak, who's one of the leading scorers, sat on the bench. So why don't you tell the millions that, who started for the Sounders?
And millions who started for the Sounders. Let me get on that for you, but you're right. Danny Musovsky did come off the bench, but we would welcome the Moose back to Bank of Montreal Stadium, BMO Stadium, for the first time. And oh geez, I just had the roster pulled up, and I go, oh, it's loading. Sorry, I was switching through to different things, and I lost where I had the roster lineup.
You were getting choked up on Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I got to wash it down with maybe a yerba mate or yerba madre, also a new sponsor for LAFC this year. But one I'm a big
Yerba
fan.
Madre, that's a thing, or are you just talking ish to me?
No, yerba mate. You know those like the
Yeah, but
tea.
you just said Yerba Madre. You talk.
Right. They recently rebranded
Oh,
to
I just thought you
yerba.
were here trying to talk some smack.
No, 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 no. I would not. Look, we saw what happened last time I talked smack against cereal as Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I'm not going to go down that route again. Okay, but no, but yeah, Yerba Mate, new sponsor for LAFC, who I've been drinking their drinks for years, for like 6 years now. They just rebranded to Yerba Madre. LAFC posted on their story about their rebrand too, a couple weeks back. So I don't know. You might not have caught it. Wouldn't blame me if you didn't. But anyway, oh yeah, the starting lineup, if you will.
Huh.
So
Oh, that's what we were talking about. I forgot.
don't worry. Usually it's me who loses track of everything here, just like I'm doing right now. But anyway, in goal you had Thomas. In front of him, you had Gomez, Bell, and Nuhu. In their midfield, they went with four in the midfield. You had Rienzi, Leva, Paulo, and Rothrock. And up front, they had the youngin De La Vega, De Rosario, and Ferreira up front. That was it's always wild to see him in Sounder Green. I don't know. I just always have that Dallas image of him in my head. But anyway, that was the starting 11 for their Seattle Sounders.
It's also important to note that Jordan Morris is out, so he's hurt. He didn't make the starting lineup. Jesus Ferreira, yeah, you're right. It is odd seeing him. He hasn't contributed as far as goal scoring is concerned for the Sounders this season, but he has managed to find 5 assists to his teammates. So a dangerous player, obviously U.S. Men's International. These days, does that even matter? Hopefully it does come World Cup. But yeah, those are your starters. For LAFC, LAFC comes in with a pretty familiar lineup. Hugo Lloris in between the sticks, Sergi Palencia, Marlin, Eddie Segura, and Smoilikov, Artem Smoilikov. It's
Okay.
when they announced the starting lineups at LAFC and everybody, chants the name when the public address announcer gives the first name and the crowd gives the last name. It's pretty funny how quiet it was when they got to Smolyakov. Oh, boy. And then you got Timothy Tillman in the middle. What's that?
He's a guy we haven't seen a lot of this year, and even less so in the starting lineup. So it was a surprise to many people. But I'll tell you what, I was up in section 209 and I screamed his name because I was fired up to see this guy. I love his style of play.
I mean, I don't think there's very many people at LAFC that have come across that you haven't loved. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like Scarf, like you love a lot of LAFC players. And with Scarf, everybody's the nicest guy you'll ever meet.
Yeah. Well, and a big fan of the pod too, that's for sure.
Yeah, of course. All right. So in the midfield, Timothy Tillman, Igor Jesus. I know when the public address announcer wanted to say number 6, you get nostalgic with Elias Sanchez. So sorry about that. Frankie Amaya, then Cengiz Under would be up top, along with Jeremy Abobasi and Denis Bouanga. And spoiler alert, the 3 forwards up top would all bag goals at the end of the day. So that's the starting lineup. Again, 2 teams coming in, undefeated in 5, but the streak is going to end. As we've done in the past, defenders, normally Scarf and I would do the minute by minute recap. I don't want to do that. I'm done with that, at least when it's just me and Laugh. I want to have fun. We do so many things that are serious. We want to talk about the goals. We want to talk about the fun moments. We want to talk about the joy and jubilation because finally, we had an LAFC team that we remembered from back in the day, a team that goes out there on a rampage and kills people. And kill people is exactly what they did, putting down 4 through Seattle's stinking throat. Finally felt like the LAFC of old times. And it didn't take too long for us to get off and running. LAFC came out of the gates pretty well. 26-minute Cengiz Under, man. I don't know what it is. They say, I don't know what it is about shots from outside of the box with LAFC and Seattle Sounders goalkeeper. So Cengiz Under got the scoring started as a shot from outside of the box gets deflected by Andrew Thomas, Seattle's goalkeeper. He made the save, but it deflects off him into the net. LAFC, when scoring first this season, is an impeccable team, and their record wouldn't be blemished on this evening. What do you think about Cengiz Under's goal?
Look, it was characteristic of what I've said about him all year long. First of all, this guy's not afraid of anybody. He's not going to tiptoe to the referees when the referees are being stupid. He'll get in their face and call them idiots. But look, Cengiz Under came in here, and he's seen bigger and badder all his life, and he's not going to be somebody who is going to be timid or hesitant or tentative at all with anything that he does. And one of the things that I loved about him early on in the season when he first appeared was that he's going to fire away. He's going to take shots. He's going to get creative, make things happen. And look, if he's got an opportunity, he's not going to think twice about it. He's going to ram it down your throat. And that was what he did. He had the opportunity. He got control of the ball. Boom, fired it right in. It was an amazing attempt at a save from the keeper, Thomas, but it hit his leg and bounced right in. So I guess you can give assist to the keeper on that. But it was everything I've been saying about Cengiz Under is that the guys that he's just kind of badass out there. He's gonna go. He's tough and he's gonna just fire away. I mean, I wasn't surprised, but I was thrilled to see it. And I'm also thrilled to see that he had the opportunity to start the game and get significant minutes because I think he made a ton happen and he was going to show everybody that he was not to be denied out there on the pitch.
No, I was having, you're 100% right. So his loan ends on June the 30th. Now,
Yep.
Fenerbahce obviously wants to get a lot of money from him. And I happen to bump into Neil McGuinness of LAFC. He's the technical director of the team. Was instrumental with the Columbus Crew, and he came from Celtic over in the Scottish Premier League. So I was talking to Neil yesterday at halftime about Under, saying, hey, what's the likelihood of us trying to buy out, bring his loan in, or not end his loan, just like buy him out from Fenerbahce. And he's like, well, there's things that we have to take into consideration. He doesn't get a lot of playing time, so that's one thing. So that's going to be part of the negotiating process with Fenerbahce. But at his cost, we're going to have to be really careful because that guy's going to come seeking designated player money. But we may actually have a decent chunk of change should and if and when we beat Club America in that opportunity to get into the FIFA Club World Cup. So, yeah, Cengiz Under gets things started. Seattle almost had a goal opportunity moments later. I mean, they kissed the woodwork. But essentially, that's how the half would end. When it comes down to it, LAFC would go into the locker room having taken 8 shots, 3 of them on target. Their passing accuracy is among the best it's been all season. About 90% on the 300 passes that they made. And so solid start from LAFC, but a 1-0 lead against the Seattle Sounders, never comfortable as we know, because we've been kicked in the teeth many times when we're only up on Seattle 1-0. This is a team that we need to hammer and hammer consistently. But that started in the second half, didn't it, Chris?
It sure did. And look, going back to Cengiz Under though, my gut tells me that we're not gonna keep him. I don't know. I have no inside information. I'm just from what I see. I'm looking at it, and I think like we're just trying to get what we can out of the guy while we have him. But I don't think we're gonna have him for that long. I certainly like him, but I also don't think that LAFC or the staff has fallen head over heels with him as much as I have. But I do like what we've seen from him. I think he's here for a good time, but not a long time. And but if in the time that we do have him, I hope there's a plan to replace him. But I also like the emergence of some of our other forwards that we've had so far this season to maybe make up that slack if we do let him go. But it was really encouraging to see the wide range of people who were going to contribute last night on the score sheet. We talked about, Cengiz Under getting the lone goal in the first half. I was happy to see that. I think, also made Seattle's defense a little bit more spread out is the word. Just a little bit more spread out because now they're thinking, oh, it's not the same LAFC where in much of the year it was live by the Belonga or die by the Belonga, something we talked about on One More Sleep. Well, now we're getting more people involved. And a guy like Cengiz Under is usually the one orchestrating getting everybody else involved. But now he's the one hammering down Seattle's throat. So going into the half, I'm pumped, man. I'm psyched up. And I just felt like good things were to come. But you did have to be careful because Seattle, despite who they had on their injury report, some of their major players, we still had to take into account that it's Seattle. Anything can happen. You can't overlook a team like this, no matter what year it is, no matter what kind of year they're having or we're having. I was pumped, man, coming in, but I was still a little hesitant. but I had a good feeling that LAFC was starting to turn around and kind of prove me wrong on some of my predictions that I had on One More Sleep. And they were showing me up, man. Maybe they all listen. I know Aaron Long is in the chat here, but I think he's playing this episode for everyone else, before the game, so they can see what I was saying. And they wanted to prove me wrong, dude. I think that was the impetus for the offensive onslaught last night.
Well, speaking of impetus, glad the rest of our players weren't impotent when it came to scoring. DeCook in the chat says the best thing ever. I love that the goals were spread around. I completely agree. When more than just Denny Bawanga gets involved in the activity and the game flow, look at what happens. That we haven't scored this many goals all season. Now, Cengiz Under in his 10th game for LAFC, his 4th start, would get his 2nd goal to go along. Now he's got 2 goals, 2 assists. So the pass and a young player who took a really nasty shot to the dome piece, Igor Jesus, he would quickly come back in on the sideline, obviously first half, couple minutes coming back in. But man, the dime that he had to Jeremy Abobasi on that breakaway, Jeremy Abobasi would score a goal. Like when he was making his run, I think he had 2 defenders that were right on him, still found the space, still managed to skirt it past Thomas. And what a dime pass from Igor Jesus, his first MLS career at LAFC's first assist to Jeremy Abobasi, a guy who used to kill us in the same exact way that he killed Andrew Thomas. What a glorious goal, but there is no goal without that fantastic pass by Igor Jesus.
Man, I'll tell you what, one of the things that I noticed about the goals last night, just like Under's goal, it was a weird deflect. It wasn't a straight pass to him. It was like coming back to him. He just happened to intercept it, get control, and fire it in. Abobasi was with 2 defenders on him. We'll talk more about the other goals later, but while we scored a bunch, none of these goals were easy. They might have been pretty in the end, but they had to really work for him. And I think Abobasi's goal was really indicative of that, to where he had a couple of opportunities where maybe he just couldn't get the pass and control it in time to turn and make the move before the defenders got on him. But he had the opportunity for a few goals last night. So I was really excited for him to see him put one in the back of the net, because he had been working hard so much last night, as he does every game. And it was relieving to see that, because I thought he earned it. He really deserves to get that, that recognition in front of the home crowd for his efforts, and because he's been doing a great job for us. And I do want to go back to what you said before, and for the listeners, just know that impetus and impotent are 2 different words that mean 2 totally different things. And I was not talking about the blood flow of the players of LAC. I was talking about things being made on the field.
That's funny. Henry Masters in the chat says Artem and Palencia had Rothrock in their pocket. Absolutely. I mean, if you paid attention to a lot of the activity that was off of the ball, Palencia and Rothrock really got into it on a couple of occasions. I love to see a feisty Palencia go at other players on the opposing team and just really get in their heads. He has that ability to piss people off. And a player as young as Rothrock easily was baited into Sergi Palencia's artistry of the dark football magic. So brilliant on that. The one player, by the way, he would end up he would be taken off. He didn't really have any effect in terms of creating any opportunities that were really dangerous. But this kid De La Vega, man, there were so many opportunities where he was kind of swashbuckling his way through defenders. The kid's pretty darn good, man. He obviously comes at a hefty price tag, Seattle's most expensive player, period. But he was the only player on the pitch last night that really showed anything for the Sounders. Because other than that, yes, LAFC truly shut down Seattle in so many ways. But let's move on. So we're up 2-0.
The thing about Vega, too, is Seattle's just glad that they can get him on the pitch. Last year, they brought him in for a lot of money, and he was taking up a big spot for them, but they couldn't get him on the pitch. Either he wasn't healthy or he wasn't performing well enough. So for Seattle, they've got to be thrilled to finally get this kid out there. Young kid with a lot of upside, but, it's hope for them. They're hoping that it's the turnaround that they wanted to see from him. because last year he just wasn't doing it. He wasn't cutting the mustard. But hey, look, I put up on the screen there. Palencia was on fire last night. One more thing that we forgot to talk about from the first half was, yeah, you had Under's goal, but it was almost 2-0 because Palencia caught a rebound in there, or he jumped up and tried to do a weird, not bicycle kick, but
Oh yeah,
corral
I forgot.
out of nowhere. Just couldn't get it on the ball, and keeper was able to make an easy save. But Palencia, every game, that guy, you can always count on him giving 100%. And man, he was flying all over. He was locking down on defense, which was my key to the match from One More Sleep the other night. But also, he's going to make himself dangerous and a scoring threat. He's somebody that not only is he going to get right in the middle of the box to maybe get a comebacker like that, but he's always somebody firing down on the wings with an opportunity to make a shot. So Palencia, man, like look, we're talking about all our strikers and kind of how the depth that we have and how all of them are contributing in different ways right now. But you can't overlook a guy like Palencia. And I think, too, what we saw from a guy like Artem Smolyakov last night was very similar. He had a couple of scoring opportunities, and he was trying to make like his own Denny Bawanga impersonation. We're flying down the side, coming into the box and taking shots. So that's another guy. Look, this is what gets me so excited, is not just what Bawanga can do, because we know he can be exciting. And yes, every time you get the ball, you're always hoping something magic is going to happen. But we're getting guys that not even on our offense that are becoming scoring threats. And we are developing and growing and growing. And I think we're really building that chemistry we'd been lacking in the early portion of the season.
Yeah, it feels like we've certainly turned a corner because, I mean, we have been playing a lot better over the course of the last 5. I mean, really, since the Miami game, LAFC's played a lot better. I mean, we could argue that the game against Vancouver was sort of a lost cause in a way. Not really, because like you go in on the road against a tough team, but that's a game we should have won. Either way, sometimes when you're up 2-0 and you concede 2, people view that as a negative thing. But Vancouver's going to be good. And honestly, don't be shocked. Do not be shocked if they head into, I'm saying this, honest, dead ass defenders, like, don't be shocked if Vancouver goes into Mexico City and gives Cruz Azul a big game, potentially even coming back with a CONCACAF Champions Cup. It would be a bitter pill to swallow considering the number of times we had that opportunity in the Cup final, but we didn't get it. Anyway, David Martinez would end up scoring this incredible turnaround goal, which would end up getting called offside. And as pretty as that goal was, what was even prettier about it was the assist from Nathan Ordaz. For those who were ever on the fence about Nate, obviously I hope not anymore, because the kid's really finding the back of the net and coming into his zone. He's bulked up. He's a completely different player than he was last year. But the fact that he made the run that he did with one darn boot on, go back and watch the replay. One friggin' boot on, and he still made the run with his hair on fire, connecting with Martinez, and everybody in the stadium thought it was a goal. I mean, the public address announcer, the music, the Rage Against the Machine anthem, every time we score a goal, around the electronic banner boards, goal, 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 and even he was at a point where he's on his knees praying to God, thank you for letting me find the back of the net. When they decided to pull that back, call it offside, go back and see the look of disappointment on his face. It actually broke my heart and kind of crushed me because, yes, maybe he was off by a nose hair, if anything, but the goal that he scored was incredible. And the fact that Nathan Ordaz did what he did with one boot on, very, very commendable.
You know what I loved about that was Steve Cherundolo's answer in the press conference when they asked him about what he thought about that goal or the non-goal. And he was like, well, it was a goal. He's like, and he was like, not just to me, but anybody who saw it on a TV screen knew that they were onside. So they were not offside. So, yeah, look,
Pro got a pro.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, at least it wasn't a bad call in a close game. At least it wasn't a call that decided the game. God forbid. Can you imagine if that was the case? Fortunately, LAFC was handling business, but at that point, still, it was it was just 2-0 at that point. With still
77th minute, which is plenty of time for Seattle to still come in. 77th minute, crazier things have happened.
Yeah, and look, if you don't believe that, if you don't believe that that's not enough time to come back and win a game when you're up 2-0, or come back and lose a game when you're up 2-0, well, go watch the Galaxy game from last night and see how that worked out.
What a freaking it's for a little while, like if the game against the Red Bull for them was a tragedy, then the loss against them, the loss against the Union for them was a comedy. Just we'll talk about that on One More Sleep. I don't want to really go too much into that because there's so many like little tales that we can talk about as far as them in the upcoming El Tráfico on Sunday. But let's stick to this one now. In the 77th minute, still plenty of time to go. Denny Bouanga did an interview with Max Bretos, and in English, by the way. The front flip was coming. And you know what? He would give fans at BMO a reason to celebrate his patented front flip because he ends up getting a goal in the 81st minute. Another beautiful goal. If anybody questions Denny the Destroyer, look, 6 goals in 6 games. And it's not the kind of 6 goals in 6 games where he has a hat trick in one, 2 in another, and then he disappears for a good portion of the other. And obviously then scoring today. 6 goals in 6 games. LAFC has turned the page, and it's no surprise that they have, especially with Denny Bouanga starting to produce some results. There's been questions about, and you and I had this conversation the other day, questions about whether or not he's fully vested. I don't know how you could say he isn't, especially with the performances he's been putting up as of late.
Well, I never would say that it's a question of his heart or his effort ever. I think Denny Bouanga has proven from day one that he is 100%. He's going to give 100% on the field every game that he plays, and he plays every game. I think that what we've been seeing is a difference in his play, to where I think his magic that he's had has always been his ability to dribble out of double coverage and to break free and get some momentum and get a breakaway for an open shot. But this year I've been calling it out on some episodes too a lot, is that it's like he'll get the ball with play or with space, with room to move and with momentum ahead of the player and making the defense chase him, but then stopping to set up a play, or to set up a pass and letting the defense kind of catch up to him, which then he has to try to dribble out of and doesn't always work. So I always had some questions about, like, well, why is he doing that? Why isn't he just going for the throat? But I think too, it's been just a combination of trying to find the chemistry and find the connection and finding the maybe the lineup that works for him to get people in the right positions to take some of that heat off of him. So not only can he get into the box by himself if he has his defenders beat, but have somebody there to pass to. And I think a lot of times he's looking for somebody to pass to, and he's just not seeing them there or seeing them in position. But I think last night solved a lot of those problems where his teammates were creating opportunities for him if necessary, but also that allowed him the opportunity to take shots himself. So I think we've just seen a difference in results and style of play from Bouanga this year, which has just been kind of a head scratcher for me in a lot of ways. But I think his effort and his fire has always been there, and I think the guy loves it here. I'm sure he's got aspirations for elsewhere at some point, but wherever he's at, he gives 100%, no doubt about that.
So before we address the 4th goal, I do want to mention Olivier Giroud gets subbed into the game, obviously at this point when the game is sort of put away. Now, Aaron Long in the chat. And by the way, Aaron Long, were you on the Angel City Chicks podcast commenting? Because if you were, shout out to you. They had a lot of really good stuff to talk about defenders. They talked about, obviously, the game against the Utah Royals. But if you haven't heard what happened to Savvy King, their 20-year-old center back, it's wild stuff. You got to go back and check that out if you're unfamiliar with it. But I bring up what Aaron Long says, or Aaron Long, because he goes, I still believe in Giroud, and do you? And my answer to that is simple. It's like, I believe in Giroud as much as my 44-year-old self believes in the Easter Bunny. No, I don't believe in Giroud. And you could just look. Next time you see him, when he came in, there was one opportunity where he outstretched, almost was able to knock one in past Thomas. Watch his body language. He just seems like a defeated player. he doesn't seem like he wants to get involved so badly, right? And everybody is scoring, but him. And so any opportunity he gets, he doesn't get very many touches. He didn't get very many touches when he got a lot of playing time anyway, obviously even less with him coming off of the Pine Pony and just getting a couple of minutes. But the guy looks defeated, dejected. He's a shell of what we saw at Milan. And again, I bring this up time and time again because this wasn't us bringing a player that was on a downward trajectory. Sure, he was older, but top 10 in Serie A with a competitive Milan team, a top 10 in goals and assists, and this is what we get. Watch his body language next time. I'm telling you, I'm over the Olivier Giroud story, and I feel bad because the guy's world class, but he's ass here in LA.
Well, I think you got to look back to last year, and you were concerned that maybe you'd be relegated to the couch because of how much your wife loves Olivier Giroud.
That's not the reason why I dislike him.
I know. Correlation is not causation. I get that. But look, here, my take on Olivier Giroud is: do I believe in him? Yes and no. Look, I don't believe that he's gonna flip a switch and all of a sudden we're gonna get what we saw from him in Milan. I just don't think that's going to translate to his time at LAFC. I don't think he's gonna turn around and just be a magician out there. But what I have seen from him is improved play from some of his previous games. Scarf would go off a lot about how Olivier Giroud couldn't even stay on side.
He wasn't wrong.
Look, I know, but I think Olivier is finding his footing in LAFC a lot better now. But I think he's identifying that his role is not to come here or is not to be the superstar of this team. I think he knows that. I think he's accepted that. And I think for as proud of a player as he is, as accomplished of a player as he is, and all of the accomplishments in his career, I think he's also humble enough to know, hey, look, Bouanga is the guy, not me. We've got two young guys in Ordaz and Martinez who are out there playing better to me and playing more suited to the MLS. And then also with guys like Under and Abobasi in front, those are bigger threats. I think he's come to terms with it. So I don't. Is he downtrodden about it? I wouldn't say so. He seems like he's positive around all his teammates. From everything that I've heard from watching interviews and press conferences, he seems like a model teammate. So
yes, I would agree there.
What I believe in from Giroud is that he is here, even if he can't lend his past expertise on the pitch anymore or in here for whatever reason, he sure is lending it to his teammates in any advice, any assistance in training, any help that he can be to them to help elevate everybody around him. So, look, I'll say to this: for everybody who gets on Olivier's case about, oh, he can't score, he can't play, he can't do this, he's not what we were promised. Yes, that comes at a hefty price tag that he's not living up to his contract with his play. But I'll tell you what, I will take this Olivier Giroud and his attitude that he has with being a great teammate and elevating the other people around him than I would be if he was a prima donna, angry, if he was just pissy and moaning all the time about how, oh, I'm a star, I don't get any playing time, I don't do this, and just being a complete locker room, just negative Nancy in there. I really, what I'm grateful for is that this guy has come around and at least still been a positive addition as a person to LAFC. So is that worth his contract? Probably not, but hey, it sure beats him being a jerk.
I mean, I don't know. Like if he was scoring goals and he was a jerk, I think I'd be okay with that.
Well,
not gonna lie.
Not scoring goals and he's a jerk, that would just be chaotic for everybody, and that's all we'd be talking about. There'd be distractions, that would be ruining morale, but the guy's not doing anything wrong on a personal level. So
no, you're right, he's not doing anything. I mean, you're not wrong about that at all.
I appreciate how he's coming here and been professional. despite his and everybody else's disappointment. And I'm sure he hears all the disappointment from other people, and I'm sure he feels it just as much as them. So look, I'm not saying that I'm okay with how he's performed for us, not at all. But I give the guy a lot of credit for not, not bringing everybody down with him. He's still trying to bring everybody up.
And real quick, breaking news: the Dodgers just beat the Athletics by a score 19-2. Wild.
And in order to do this episode, I turned down 2 free Dodgers tickets for tonight.
Well, wow, you would have seen an offensive explosion. That was 13 runs in 3 innings. So for the Dodger fans out there, that's great. Now, while Olivier Giroux would not bag a goal, somebody that would bag his first goal at LAFC, Yeboah. And we've seen Yeboah score. Unfortunately, he was against us in Columbus in the 2023 MLS Cup final. But Yeboah, man, he absolutely would seal the Sounders' sarcophagus with a beautiful goal, man. At one point when he had the ball, I thought he would go in left. He kind of spun around, flipped it to the right, and when he fired it, man, I mean, Andrew Thomas didn't have a shot in hell at making that save. Yeboah getting on the scoreboard, getting on the score sheets for the first time in his black and gold career. Couldn't have come at a better time. Yeboah. I would say that's the goal of the game in terms of aesthetics.
Yeah, I give it to him because, like I talked about earlier, none of these goals were pretty, man. Like, they had a fight for every single one of them, and Yaw had guys raining down on him in throughout this, and he had to work out of that. He had to find ways to get around him, and he had to go through a ton of pressure to get that shot off, and that wasn't even an easy shot to get off. It wasn't open once he beat his defenders. It was kind of a hey, here goes nothing kind of move from him. So, look. Love the guy's fight. I think from even his limited minutes, every time he's come in and brought a lot of fire to our offensive game. And he's somebody that has I just look, I love his attitude. I love the way that he plays. I think that, unfortunately you only have 11 players on the pitch at one time. I love seeing him out there. Yeah, I would hope that, as we continue in this season, we can find more opportunities to get him in even more. Maybe we can cycle him in even more and get, just keep guys fresher by giving guys like Yaya Boa or Nkosi Tafari, who we did not see featured last night, get those guys in because we're able to, and we're able to give guys, fewer minutes to keep them fresher and keep everybody healthier as time goes on. But I mean, look, that's for the coaching staff and for guys a lot smarter about physical conditioning and soccer coaching than I am to figure out. But my overall takeaway from last night, and of course it's easy to feel this way after a 4-0 win, but compared to what we have been seeing, I called out the offense for being anemic on one more sleep, and damn, was I wrong. So at least they really proved me wrong, which I love to see. So for tomorrow's episode of One More Sleep, I'm going to talk a lot of crap to really let them prove me wrong. But look, overall, with a guy like Yeboah, fantastic goal, showed a lot of heart, showed a lot of fight, and it paid off for him. And you love to see things like that. You love to see breaks go your way, especially for guys like Yeboah when they don't get a lot of opportunities, but they maximize them. Fantastic job by Yeboah all around. Has been all season. Looking forward to seeing more from him too.
Yep, the things we celebrate Denny Bawanga getting his 6th goal in 6 games. We celebrate Jeremy Abobasi getting his 3rd. We celebrate Igor Jesus getting his 1st assist. We celebrate Cengiz Under getting his 2nd goal. And of course, we celebrate Yeboah scoring his 1st goal as a member of LAFC. I know we're family friendly. I would love to go a different direction, although I'm not, but I'll simply say this. We whooped that ass. Seattle, we beat your ass, and it feels pretty darn good, in particular after y'all beat us 5-2 a couple of months ago. 4-0 in your face. The first loss for the Sounders since April the 5th. 3rd time that LAFC has put 4 past Seattle, but the first time they did so by shutting them out. This is the biggest win versus Seattle from a score line. And quite honestly, you got to put a flipping asterisk on this because it should have been 5 goals. Biggest win of the year for LAFC. Most goals they've scored all season was 3 coming into this. And their biggest output was back in March when they beat the Columbus Crew 3-0. Not saying LAFC is back or whatever the case may be, but an impressive performance against a Sounders team that was above us in the standings. Now they are directly below us. We would end up finishing the game with 15 shots, 7 on target, 4 big opportunities, and yeah, we would convert. Seattle, on the other hand, 8 shots with 3 shots on targets. So that's how this one ends. The conclusion, we beat that ass. Amen.
That was a butt whooping for LAFC, for all those looking to keep it family friendly. And
you could say ass on TNT, Lafferty. So if you could say it on TNT or TBS, we could say it on Defenders of the Bank.
Sure. But look, you know what I want to say though, was last night was just, so I hadn't been back to the bank for a little while. Like, it's been a while for both you and I that we've been to a game at the bank. I mean, it was for very different reasons. You know, we all had work. We either had work. I was down with the flu for a couple of weeks, so just things precluded me from being at the stadium, and I just don't get to see a lot of, for a lot of people there, a lot of good friends. I typically only see them at matches at LAFC or at LAFC events. So it was fantastic to get back there. And it was just great to be around everyone again and just get that feeling of being with the black and gold and being with all the people, especially even like, for the thousands of people that I have no idea who they are. I've never seen them before in my life. It's just such a great atmosphere at Bank of California, at BMO Stadium.
And nickel in the jar.
I got to put it. Yeah. Well, I'll put it in my BMO account. How's that? But the thing was, I met 2 people last night, and it was their first ever LAFC game, which was awesome to me. One was our good buddy Kevin Blumenfeld brought one of his friends to the game, got to meet him. Really nice guy, but it was just like, you can tell he's just like, wow, this was incredible. In the second half, I was watching from the concourse, kind of right above where the tunnel is by section 101. I was just watching there, taking in the great view. And these 2 guys next to me, one of them has, been around for a few years. I didn't know either one of them, but he was like, yeah, this is my buddy. He's never been to a game before. He's like, I didn't even know about them really, or I've heard of them, but didn't know anything about them. Came to the game, and man, his mind was blown from all this stuff. And especially when we started scoring goals, you can tell these people had the same feeling that I had 6 years ago of like, oh my God, this is everything I've wanted in sports. And so I just love that here we are, year in, year out. No matter what gripes people have, no matter what problems people have or issues they have with who the coach is or who's not playing well, this or that, you can still come to BMO Stadium, watch LAFC, and feel that magic that we felt the first time that we ever went to a game at the stadium. So that was my favorite part of last night, was people were experiencing what I experienced years ago, and you're just seeing that magic continue. Here we are in our in 10 plus years of existence in LAFC.
LA loves a winner. There's no question about that. City of champions. And for anybody to get their first experience seeing a game like that against Seattle, that's obviously one of those stories where they're going to end up coming back. It's funny because there's always a badge of honor being a day one person. And sometimes we all got to be a little careful to not gatekeep LAFC just because we have been there for a while. And look, I'm guilty of that too. I look around the section that I sit in Founders Club. I don't recognize people anymore. Year 1 and 2, up to, I would say 3, there was a lot of familiar, recognizable faces. Now, I think maybe 10 people, 15 at most, that were in Founders from day one are still there. But, it is what it is. As long as this club is for everybody, football is for everybody, and that's how we're going to make it. And it was a very glorious midweek game. Now, we have a very big one on Sunday at 6 p.m. I don't know why they would put it at 6 p.m. 9 p.m. Eastern for one of the biggest rivalry in Major League Soccer. I don't really agree with that, but I'm not at Apple TV. We're going to talk in exhaustion about LAFC, and we're going to talk about the Galaxy, our thoughts and all kinds of things. But if you want to get a little preview there from the insight of an individual who played in that game, head on over to Soccer in 60. If you don't want to watch the full thing, that's fine. Go to the 9-minute mark. We sit down. I get a chance to sit down, and I talked to Bradley Wright Phillips for 20 minutes. We had a great dialogue, and he gives some really interesting feedback and analysis on LAFC and the Galaxy, what's going wrong, and obviously we talk about the upcoming rivalry match for Rivalry Week. So check that out again, Soccer in 60. Just look that up, or honestly on YouTube, go to the Defenders. I'm sorry. The Empire Strikers YouTube page, and you'll find it there, or obviously just type in Soccer in 60 on your various platforms. Scarf should be back, folks. I know he gets back this weekend. Whether or not he will be in time for one more sleep, I don't know the answer to that. I hope to see him because he bought me this awesome minor league baseball hat at a Biscuits game. But if it's not him, Laugh, will you be there on Saturday, or are you working?
Well, I'll be at one more sleep on Saturday, but on
that's
Sunday,
what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Hold off on the Sunday thing, but yeah, all right. So if Scarf ain't around, it's going to be me and Laugh again, and maybe, just maybe, I'll find Hello Kitty because we got to bring Hello Kitty, and I got to find Fred. Sorry, Chris, they're a little higher in the Defenders of the Bank pecking order. They've been around the longest. That is not a red card, my friend. That is a notepad. This, on the other hand, is a red card. So we're both out, red carded. And that's the end of the show, folks. Laugh, any last thoughts before we let the millions go? And if you still want more LAFC content, by the way, Art of LAFC is on right now. Any final thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I do want to give just a couple of thoughts. Got to meet some really cool people last night. Give a shout out to our buddy Cisco, who's a big fan of Defenders of the Bank. We've been typing, writing back and forth to each other, like, hey, when are we going to meet up? Like, I haven't been to the last few games. And it was great. We finally got to meet. We were chatting. I told him I appreciated that everything that he does to support Defenders of the Bank. Look, I love it when people have been coming up to me and just saying hi. From this show, I've gotten to meet so many more people around LAFC, or get to know people that maybe I've seen in person or just seen their face but didn't really know them, or got to meet a bunch of new people that we had never been introduced until I started coming on the pod with y'all. So look, to meet Cisco was awesome last night. Just a great time at the bank overall. It was great. Having 4 goals was a very nice return for me. But there were a couple other things I wanted to point out. One, last week, and it's too bad Ruben is not in the chat, because he told me a couple episodes ago that every time I mention the Black and Gold Running Club and me running, him and Genuine Cougar take a shot. Well, Coug, it's all you. Maybe you got to do a double today, because last week, a bunch of my friends, Mario, Mike, Dulce, and Rosalie from the Black and Gold Running Club, we did an awesome 50K relay to raise money for fire victims from both the Eaton and Palisades fire, as put on by the Silver Lake Track Club. We raised 50 grand. Not the 5 of us, but like the event overall raised 50 grand for people. So just wanted to highlight another awesome example of not just how great LAFC is on the pitch, but out in the community. People are really doing a lot to just help others. And this truly is a force for good. And so if I can maximize or just amplify that part of it right now and put that out there, that yes, I'm a positive guy. You joked earlier that I love everybody on the team. Well, that's because I see the power of what this team can do for everybody in LA and in the community at large. So I just want to give props to everybody from the Black and Gold Running Club who participated in that relay, and to invite everybody to come out to Silver Lake this weekend at the Silver Lake Reservoir. We're having a meetup on Saturday morning. I encourage everybody, whether you want to just walk, run, bring the dog, push the kids in the stroller, whatever, everybody's always welcome to join us. We're doing great things out there. It's a positive event. And just want to say again, thanks to everybody who's been coming up to me at the stadium and just saying hello. And Philly, thank you as always for having me on the show.
Chris, you run? I didn't know.
As always, how will you know if somebody's run a marathon? Don't worry.
They'll tell you. They'll tell you. I was one of them once until I tore my meniscus. 3 marathons. And you know what? I still have that New York City 2015. I still have that New York City 2016. And I have the LA 2017. And no, for the sarcastic folks in the crowd, those aren't pandas. Anyways, I digress. Go to Heart LAFC right now. They're doing their thing. Give them some love. Support everybody within the LAFC pod fam. Look, we're not getting paid to do this. At least we're not getting paid anymore. So we're here to have fun. And don't forget to check out Bradley Wright Phillips, Soccer in 60. My shameless plug for the thing I do get paid for. On that note, we beat Seattle's ass. Enjoy it. And we will be back on Saturday for another episode of One More Sleep. Enjoy Thirsty Thursday. Enjoy Freaky Friday. And let's have a sizzling mother trucking Sunday and Saturday. Good night.